What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first Doctor William Hartnell story from Season 2, The Dalek Invasion of Earth. Now, this is the second ever Dalek story. It's actually the first one I've seen. I haven't actually seen the original story, The Daleks, but I have heard things about it. I've seen a few clips from it, so I can kind of talk about it a little bit, but I haven't actually seen the full episode. This is, at the moment, the oldest Dalek story I've seen, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, which is the second ever Dalek story. It is from Season 2, I believe it's Season 2, Episode 2, and it's the first time we ever have a companion exit in the form of Susan leaving the TARDIS. So it's the first companion departure, which I think is one of the main reasons why people really love this story, because it is the first time we see a companion leave the TARDIS. So let's read the back of the DVD. This is The Dalek Invasion of Earth by Terry Nation. Arriving in a devastated London in the middle of the 21st century, the Doctor, Ian, Barbara and Susan discover that the Daleks have invaded Earth. Will the human race be enslaved by the evil Daleks, or can the Doctor stop their audacious plans and save mankind from extermination? So we got a pretty nice little plot there. This is the first time we get to see the Daleks come to Earth. I believe, well, I'm sure that the first Dalek story was not on Earth. It was, I don't know if it was on, I'm pretty sure it was on Skaro. I can't exactly remember. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but yeah, this is the first time we get to see the Daleks invading Earth, hence the title. So yeah, this is a pretty decent story. I'm going to go over, like I do, some good things and bad things. However, we will start off with the cast, because that's something I always forget to do. I forget to do it straight away. We're going to do it this time. So let's start off, of course, with William Hartnell as the first Doctor. He's very, very good in this. This is only my third, only the third William Hartnell story I've seen. The other two are actually the two that come after this, The Rescue and the Romans. And in those, he's a bit more comedic, a bit more silly, especially the Romans. So it's nice to see him a little bit more serious, a little bit more grumpy in some ways in this story. It's apparently what he's more like in the rest of his tenure, so it's nice to see him in that more serious state of mind. He does a very, very good job, has some pretty serious moments, has a couple of funny moments as well, so that's very, very good. We then have Carol Ann Ford as Susan Foreman. Like I said, this is Susan Foreman's final episode, so Carol Ann Ford's final episode as playing Susan the companion. This is the first ever time I've seen Susan, well, apart from it, I saw her in the Five Doctors, but this is the first time I've seen her with William Hartnell in his era, and she does a very good job. Like I said though, first time seeing her when she's leaving. I suppose I don't really get the emotion that a lot of other people would have got when watching this, because I haven't got to know her at all, because I haven't seen any of the other episodes that she's in. I imagine though, after seeing more of her episodes, I'll get to like her more, and yeah, feel much more sad from this. But you know, she doesn't really do a lot in this episode. She kind of just is there to have a relationship with this David character, but what she has is pretty good. Jacqueline Hill is next, who plays Barbara Wright. Barbara's a great character. You know, I saw her in The Rescue and the Romans. She was very good there. She's very good here. She actually gets quite a few little moments where she gets to shine. She gets to be a bit more badass. It's nice to see a female character doing that in the old 60s show. Now, we also, of course, have William Russell as Ian Chesterton. Really, really good. My first impression of Ian was really good when I first saw him, and I love him in this as well. Really, really good. We of course have some side characters in this. We've got Bernhard K as Carl Tyler. He's very good. I'm not going to go crazy on these people, but yeah, he's good. We have Peter Fraser as David Campbell, the character that ends up marrying Susan at the end of the episode. Very, very good. A lot of good stuff there, especially with Susan. And then we just have a bunch of other characters that I'm not really going to go over right now, but pretty much everyone in this story is good. There may be a couple of janky side characters here and there, but on the whole, most of the main characters were very, very good. Now let's get onto my good and bad list. We'll start off with the good stuff. First of all, a Dalek emerging out of the water. This is where we first see the Daleks appear. I believe at the end of part 1, we see a Dalek come out of the water, and it's really, really good. It's just a nice little creepy moment. Of course, I was expecting it because, well, the episode's called The Dalek Invasion of Earth, But yeah, I think when you saw this the first time, it would have been pretty creepy seeing a Dalek come up out of the water, so that's very, very good. A couple of funny moments from the Doctor, especially this one. The Doctor telling Jack, who's a character that we don't see for very long, but we basically do see him for a bit with, I believe he's with Ian at the time. He tells him to shut up and go away. I can't exactly remember what was happening now, but they were the Doctor and Ian were trying to figure something out, and this Jack character was kind of getting up in their face and trying to figure it out with them, but he didn't really know what was going on. The Doctor was getting a bit impatient with him, kind of telling him, shut up, just go away, I don't want you here, let me figure this out on my own. And that was kind of when I got to see the more darker, kind of stricter side of William Hartnell's Doctor, so that was very, very good. The Daleks on the bridge were iconic, just a shame that they were in a bit of a pointless scene. Yeah, we have the Daleks on the London Bridge, at least I think it was the London Bridge. It was a bridge in London anyway, and it's a really iconic scene, really well shot, just a really, really nice scene. However, it wasn't a bit of a long, pointless scene. I believe it was when Barbara and the guy in the wheelchair and the other woman were trying to run away from the Daleks, going from one place to another. It felt like that scene could have been shortened a hell of a lot more, but I'll get onto that in the bad stuff. But yeah, what we did get, you know, the actual Daleks on the bridge was pretty good. Very cinematic, just really shot. It was just shot really well. Barbara running over Daleks was also a really good thing. A nice thing to see Barbara actually, you know, doing something badass. I don't know how she was used in episodes before this and other episodes in William Hartnell's era, but you know, when she was there. But you know, it's nice to see the female companions actually doing something cool and badass. So seeing her run through a roadblock of Daleks is really, really cool. Ian travelling inside the capsule, another just pretty cool moment. He goes into this capsule and starts fiddling around with the wiring inside. It keeps cutting back to him. The pacing's a bit weird sometimes, but I just like that. I thought it was a pretty cool moment, seeing him like cramped up in there trying to mess around with the wires. Pretty cool. The Robomen turning on the Daleks. Basically, in the end, the Doctor ends up going up to the Daleks' kind of control panel and tinkering with the settings so that the Robomen, who are the men that the Daleks have kind of enslaved and turned into these Dalek-like creatures, but they're still human, but you know, they're being kind of controlled. He changes it so that they turn on the Daleks, and they basically end up like bashing on the Daleks. They end up picking up Daleks, throwing them around. It's really, really cool. Just a really awesome way to defeat the Daleks, I think there. And then finally, Susan's departure is done very, very well. I think the main reason people talk about this story and they love it so much is because it is Susan's departure story. It's the first ever companion departure, and it is done really well. Probably one of the best companion departures of all time in Doctor Who. You know, that speech from the Doctor, you know, one day I shall come back. It's such a good speech. It's just, I knew that speech before I even started getting into classic Doctor Who slightly. Everybody that is even slightly a Doctor Who fan knows that speech. Even if you've only watched New Who, you know that speech. You know, you've heard it before. It's just such a good speech and a really sad end for Susan. But obviously, you know, in a way it's kind of a happy end as well. She gets to live a life with David. Even though I thought that it was a bit weird, like, you know, they didn't know each other very long. From all I know, from what it feels like, this story only goes over a day or two. It doesn't feel like the story, you know, goes over a long period of time, but somehow David and Susan, it's like, oh, we're getting married. It's like, oh, okay, that was a bit quick, wasn't it? That's one thing I didn't quite understand. Although I did like how Susan, you know, could settle down on Earth, help rebuild the Earth after the Daleks' invasion. It did feel a bit forced. It's kind of like, oh, they've only known each other for a couple of days from what I can tell, and oh, here we go, they're getting married. It's like, oh, okay then, fair enough. But yeah, that concludes all the good stuff for this episode. I'm now going to talk about some of the things I didn't really like. First of all, the Dalek voices sound too human and a bit weird. I actually went back and looked at some clips from the Daleks, the original Dalek story, to kind of see what they sounded like. And from what I can tell, although I haven't seen the full episode, the Daleks in that story sound better than the Daleks in this story. In this story, the Daleks, they sound a bit too like this, and I don't really like it. They just don't sound very good. And I mean, although Daleks in Classic Who, I don't think personally sound as good as the ones in New Who. They just kind of sound a bit more janky. These ones are definitely, I think, the worst Daleks I've heard. Although I hear Day of the Daleks has some pretty bad Daleks. But yeah, it just felt a bit weird. And sometimes you could kind of hear the humans who were, well, obviously humans who were the voice actors. You could hear them kind of breathe in sometimes. So they just felt really weird, and it didn't really work for me, the Dalek voices. Sometimes the effect wasn't really there, it just sounded way too human. And yeah, don't know what was going on there, but whatever. The drum beat music was pretty annoying, and it removed all other audio. So basically, a couple of times from, I'd say like part 3 or 4 onwards, we had a couple of scenes, most notably when Barbara and that guy in the wheelchair and the other girl were running away from the Daleks on the bridge. They turned all the audio off in the background so you couldn't hear them like running around and stuff. But instead they just had this really annoying drum beat music, which I found really annoying. It was just, and it went on for way too long. If it was just a few seconds, fair enough. But that's what I meant by that prolonged, pointlessly long scene. It just went on for way too long. The drum beat music was so annoying and so repetitive. I didn't like that at all. Also, on the same thing with music, some scenes needed music that didn't have it. For example, Ian hitting the Slither. So when Ian hits the Slither, which is, I believe, a creature also from Skaro, like the Daleks, that the Daleks brought over to Earth to kind of guard their spaceship or their control place, whatever it was. Ian ends up hitting one of them, but there's no music in the background, and it feels like that scene really needed music. I remember when I was watching it, I was like, they're not playing any music here. We're just gonna hear him. At least we could hear him hitting it, but you know, it's like without any music, it just felt really out of place and really weird. So yeah, I think music was a big issue with me for this, and kind of direction as a whole. Some of the direction was pretty shoddy in this one as well. But yeah, and then finally, the episode can be slow in places. I say this about a lot of Classic Who stories. Being a 6-parter, it is a bit slow in places. I think this could have been a 5-parter, you know, it probably could have been a 5-parter. I think putting it to a 4-parter may have been a bit too much, but I think it could have been a 5-parter. I think a 6-parter, there was a few bits that dragged on a bit, like that annoying scene I was talking about. But I mean, yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna have to give a rating for the Dalek Invasion of Earth. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It was a pretty good story. I like the concept of it. Obviously, only the Dalek's second appearance. Susan's departure was amazingly well done, so good. And there was a lot of other things that I liked in there. However, there was just a lot of stuff that I also didn't really like. So I don't think I can give it any more than a 7 out of 10. Also, I think it's a bit of an overrated story. Mostly, I think, because of the whole Susan departure thing. But yeah, 7 out of 10. It's a good story. I'll definitely watch it again, but it's nothing to rave about, you know? I think everybody raves about this too much for what it is. There's definitely better classic Dalek stories out there. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.